Hi, honey.
Hey, baby.
You ready to do this again?
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to it all week.
All week. Do you have, you want to announce the name of our podcast?
Yeah, so now we're 4 episodes in, and we kind of had to decide on a name since we're going to upload all of these, I'm hoping, this week.
Yeah.
So we are naming the podcast Genius at Work.
Do you want to explain what you mean by genius at work, what that title means to you?
Yeah. What you're witnessing is a genius at work.
You're calling yourself a genius?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Why do you call yourself a genius?
So the name is, it's tongue-in-cheek to some extent, but it's also truthful for the most part. I do believe myself to be a genius. I think I'm operating at genius capacity at this point. I don't think there's anything wrong with me saying that or believing it, or basically living in accordance with that. I think like genius is when you're allowing source to flow through you, and you're allowing creativity to flow through you, when you're operating at an incredibly high level and you're producing something that is new, that's innovative, that's unique, different, and it's pushing the ball forward in terms of any area of interest, whether it's art, whether it's science, whether it's let's say fitness. Mm-hmm. I think anything, if you're pushing the ball forward on something and creating something new that hasn't been done before, both in terms of like you're taking your talent, your skills, your experience, and then leveling it up to the next level that then other people can iterate on, and that there could be ripple effects. I think that you're creating genius. I personally believe that that's what I'm doing right now. So I have no problem saying that part of the reason why the title is Genius at Work is because I do believe I am a genius, and I do believe that I am at work. And I think this podcast is sort of a journaling of my own genius. I also think that you have genius in you. Mm-hmm. And I think that like every day it comes out more and more and more. And I'm not saying that I think that like everybody's has the capacity to have genius flow through them. And I think it's a matter of like tapping into it.
Yeah.
And allowing it to flow through you, and kind of, again, as I've talked about in other episodes, putting fear aside and letting that creativity just come. And I think that you have awakening genius as well. Mm-hmm. So that's another reason why that would be the name of our podcast.
And then bigger picture.
Picture, yeah. I think that genius is not like a person. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it's like you can't just like it's not. Yes, we point at people. We look at Albert Einstein or a Tesla or I guess like an Elon Musk or whatever, or a Kanye West, and we say that these people are geniuses. Mm-hmm. But in reality, I think it's like the bigger collective conscious at work, or consciousness, or source, or spirit, or whatever you want to call it. I think that is genius. I think that that's an energy that's always at work, around us, within us, outside of us. And it's kind of like has dual meanings. Like on one hand, it's kind of like the jokey, self-aggrandizing part where I'm saying that I am a genius at work. But in reality, it really just means that there is genius at work. And a lot of what we're talking about here is like tapping into that and making something of it and allowing you to be a vessel for it. So
receiving it, knowing its presence, and using it.
Yes. So I think it's an apt name. And it's kind of it's kind of funny to call yourself a genius in some ways, but it's also like an affirmation at the same time. So if I think that part of being a genius is like knowing that you are enough, that you have the boldness and the belief in yourself to do something that's brand new, something that is unique, something that other people might see as crazy or weird or different, and saying like, no, I know it is like outside of the norm, but that's actually what makes it better than everything else. So I think that's like what it means to be a genius. And so like the self-proclaimed genius is like almost a necessity in a way.
Yeah, and of course I think that's a lot of people would hear that and say, okay, cocky, overly confident.
Yeah. Why? But why overly?
Because I think genius is a very grandiose way for a description.
I think that most people are not looking at themselves highly enough. I think that people don't realize how common genius can be if they allow themselves to be a genius and they saw themselves as such. So I don't think that I'm not saying that I'm capable of anything that other people aren't. I'm just saying I'm doing something that most people aren't. But everybody's capable of it. And I have no problem calling myself a genius. I think I am. I believe I am.
Yeah. I think you always had the ability to be, and it really is just coming out now,
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. But again, everybody does.
Yeah.
Everybody has the ability to be.
Yeah.
And there's been strokes of it along the way. But now it's like happening.
It's here. It's present.
And now you also have tapped into it. I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
But enough about me.
Let's talk about us.
And all my skills and amazing talents and how smart and incredible I am.
Okay, genius. So topic today, let's talk about our relationship. Because I think that is a very important piece as to why you're all of a sudden a genius. I think that I am developing into my genius flow. And I think starting from where it all began is kind of really breaking down kind of our relationship and where we are now and where we're going to go.
Okay. So I guess what is your question?
Well, I guess my question is, how long have we been together and where did we meet? Let's tell the story.
Okay. We've been together for 19 years now, going on 20 years, which means at this point in my life, I've been with you more than I wasn't with you. Yeah. Which is kind of crazy, and I think it's the same for you. Yeah. You hit that mark a little bit before I did. Yeah. So that is a very long time since high school. We met way before we started dating. Several years earlier, we didn't really even know that we had met at that point. But later on, we realized that we had on the beach
Jersey.
At the Jersey Shore Boardwalk, or the Jenkinson's Boardwalk at the Jersey Shore in Point Pleasant Beach. And again, you were with your friends, I was with my friends, didn't really notice each other, recognize each other. I think it was probably a freshman or sophomore in high school. And then a few years later, we were basically going to a party. I was with my friends. We went to rival high schools. So I went to what was called Point Pleasant Borough, and she went to what's called Point Pleasant Beach. I was in the rough and tumble wrong side of the tracks high school, and she went to the preppy kid, rich kid high school. That's just true.
It is true. And then my friends and I all hung out with y'all because we wanted to hang out with the athletes and the jocks from your school.
We were a lot cooler.
You were.
I think we were at least. So I was with my friends. We picked up you and your friends to go to some other party. And I don't know. I felt like there was kind of a spark immediately, and then it took a couple.
I came out of my house and this has always been our song ever since.
I was basically officially met you listening to Juvenile Slow Motion by Juvenile. Slow motion for me. Slow motion for me. Slow motion for me. Moving slow. And you were moving in slow motion for me, baby. It was happening in slow motion as slow motion was playing. That's the truth. Which is why it to this day when I hear that song, I picture. I guess it's weird to say. I picture 16-year-old you walking out of your house.
Oh God! But you were 17 at the time. So I guess fine. I was. Yeah. You're okay.
Yeah. So that was kind of how we met, and then we had continued to see each other at other parties in the future, and eventually, at one high school party, we
hooked up.
High school hookup, and then it was on from there, and we just kind of we're together ever since. It was there was never been a breakup. There's never been a break or whatever you want to call it, and we've just been together ever since, and we just sort of formed a life together. It's honestly kind of crazy to think about it that way, but from that point on, we were just together.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a weird thing Because I guess I look back at like being 16 and not, it just, everything was just like, yep, like this is normal. Like we're going to continue to stay together and we'll stay together and we'll, like without even really discuss, I mean, what, like, I don't even know when we were like, well, we're just going to stay together forever and like get married. Like I don't even remember like if and when we had that conversation.
I don't know if we did. I just feel like it just sort of like unfolded that way.
Yeah. For sure.
Which is, again, like that's true flowing. Like we weren't forcing anything. I think that's another interesting thing. Like nothing ever felt forced. For us to stay together, nothing was ever like, I mean, we certainly have had like challenging times,
sure.
but like
I mean,
you have to have challenging times in order to grow.
Absolutely.
But nothing ever felt like it wasn't meant to be. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like the really interesting part.
Yeah. I think there's definitely, it would be like a complete lie to say like, we'd never had moments where we're like, okay, are we going to break up? And then once we got married, we're like, okay, like, do we need to get a divorce? Like that has been like, of course, like a conversation that's like we've had before because we had, trials that we had to work through. And I think that was like going through those tough times really made our relationship and ourselves so much stronger.
Yeah.
And like now I'm like, well, you dine with me.
I obviously like I do have zero doubt that we will live out our remaining days together. There's no question of that. And like the trials, as we'll talk about, I'm sure, throughout this, and as is probably a running theme of this show to begin with, is that the more difficult something is or something seems, the more important it is to attack it head on, to not let it fester, not let it build up under the surface, because things only get worse in that way. And we've sort of, and that's not to say that things haven't built up and festered and that we haven't let things get out of hand in that way. But generally, especially like more recently, for sure, like we do not let things go unsaid or untouched if we see that there's friction somewhere. Like we kind of handle that head on. And I'm sure, I think that's probably something we'll talk about here a little bit more.
Yeah.
As things happen. So in terms of where we started, high school, high school party, hookup, drunk on like Bush Light, I'm sure, or something like that, or Keystone Light or something. And it's been incredible ever since. And we were very, very different people at that time.
Absolutely.
In so many different ways, obviously. Which is probably something else I think that we'll probably touch on throughout the course of this episode. But it feels like we've lived like 4 lifetimes together, like between high school, between college, law school, early Austin, all the way up to where we are today. We've obviously been through an immense amount together. We've grown closer. Our vision has continued to become not only more clear, but more like unified.
Definitely.
For both of us. Ourselves, we've become more unified, and we understand, what our different skills and talents we bring to the table, and like what our roles are in the relationship.
I think like that's an important piece to this, because I think we should discuss kind of the roles and like how an outsider kind of would view our relationship.
Okay.
And like the roles that like we have.
Yeah. There's the less gracious way of looking at it, and then there's the more favorable way of looking at it. So we'll start with the least gracious.
Okay.
Why not? Start there. I think let's kind of like talk through what our roles are, and then we'll talk about how somebody else might talk about it. I always say I am the CEO and you are the COO of our life. And what that means is that I am the strategizer. I have the big vision for things. I would say like am the visionary, primarily the primary visionary of the relationship in terms of where we want to go, how we're going to get there, and like what the plan is and how we're going to act on it.
Yeah.
And you are the COO, meaning you're handling the day-to-day. You are making sure that our life isn't falling apart while I'm doing that. You're making sure that the house is taken care of, the dogs are taken care of, that we have everything that we need to
Clean underwear.
And yes, will admit right here on this episode, I've literally never done my laundry in my life. I grew up in an Italian household in New Jersey. My mom did my laundry my entire life.
His grandmother folded his underwear on the dining room table.
Yep, my grandma.
Sweet Nympia.
Yes, she did. And then, again, because we've been together since high school, as soon as I moved out of my mom's house,
And then with that, yeah.
and
when
we moved in together, and you've been doing my laundry ever since. And so I literally have never, ever once done my own laundry. And a lot of people think that that's very strange. So going back to like the outside perspective of that, there's kind of two different schools of thought, I guess. Again, if you want to be the less gracious version of that, the least gracious version, it would be that you kind of like do all like the manual, like I guess like manual, but like chores, and you're sort of like the maid around the house.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'm like the controlling husband who tells us what we're going to do and when we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So that would be like how some people might view it.
And in a very, like, very negative way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the way I look at it, not, I guess outside of like the CEO, COO example, is like if we're running a ship together, if this is like a Navy ship, I would be the captain of the ship, and I'm the one who's steering it. We're navigating, we're heading forward, and I'm like, you know, generally like thinking about like big picture strategy in terms of like our charter and our trajectory. But you are maintaining the ship so that it's running efficiently, that everybody's doing what needs to be done, that underwear is clean, meals are made, we're eating, we have all the things taken care of in order to operate effectively as a boat.
Yeah.
Because a boat can get from point A to point B, but if it's a shit show, then you're not going to be able to accomplish what it needs to accomplish.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good analogy.
Yeah, it's going to sink.
Maybe. I don't know. Or just things aren't going to get done.
Yeah.
So that's the way I think is like the more favorable view. And people, of course, given society today and the way people view traditional gender roles, people might not like that, but it's allowed us to function incredibly efficiently, incredibly effectively, and it's allowed us to continually grow both as like personally. It's allowed us to grow professionally. It's allowed us to grow socially. It's allowed us to grow in every single facet of our life, and it's allowed us to grow closer together as well. Because what we're doing is we're leveraging our talents, again, our talents, our skills, and like what our interests are.
Exactly. Yeah.
In a meaningful way. And I think so. Like, what do you go on about that?
I would say that like we're being like very tactical in our day to day and in our relationship, because I know like just how to do things very efficiently that like are necessary to keep like the house done, groceries done, if the dogs are good, like everything is like, I always kind of say like everything stay ready. Like the house is always like in pretty good condition.
The house is always in outstanding condition. The house is always spotless. Always spotless.
Yeah.
Without question. Like, not just like the house is spotless, but like there's never dishes in the sink.
No, never.
There's never overflowing garbage cans. There's never dust on stuff. Like, it's always absolutely immaculate, absolutely spotless. And I think you should say like, it's something that you've grown up doing, and it's something that you actually like to do. Like, you get you get a sense of like accomplishment from doing those things.
That's my love language for sure, is acts of service, and like them being told like how good I am at it. But growing up, like, I mean, my parents, like, there were 5 kids. We all had our chores, and I always loved like when we would get the vacuum out and get to mop the house and empty the dishwasher, like do all of it. Like that was just kind of like how I grew up, and like again, I really enjoyed doing it, and I know I'm good at it, and it's efficiently done. And like the idea of like this, I always use this example, or I would think to use this example, is again, you're kind of like planning things out, like making like a vacation. Like I have no idea sometimes on a vacation, like where we're having a reservation, like where we're staying, what's going to be happening. Essentially, you come up with like a full like options throughout the day, the night, all of that. And my job is to get the bags packed, which also people think is crazy that I pack your luggage, but I'm also like, I don't have to plan and worry anything about this trip besides packing the luggage. And then when we get there, it's all like I unpack all the luggage, have everything ready, and just keep up with like whether it's a hotel or an Airbnb, like make sure it's still just like presentable and nice.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
So again, that's actually like a fantastic example. Is like I'm the one who plans the trip,
Yeah.
makes the reservations, determines like what we want to do, and of course throughout this, it should be said, of course, like when vacations is a different story because those are like surprises
Yeah.
for you a lot of the times.
Yeah.
But like in our day to day life, it's not like I'm unilaterally making decisions.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I'm the one who like strategizes plots, and then we have our family strategy meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and then we like determine, okay, like here's what I'm thinking, like what's your feedback? So it's not like you're not giving feedback, but like as I said, that was your childhood growing up was doing the laundry and doing chores. Mine, I never did. I'm not to say I never did chores, but like I did very few chores. I didn't do laundry, and like I honestly hated doing that kind of stuff. I don't like tedious, repetitive tasks. Those things drive me crazy.
And I love it. I thrive. And like I hate planning. And like the idea and like kind of like this overwhelming sense of being like we're going to New Orleans in a couple of weeks with my parents, and I'm like, I need your help to come up with like things to do and like what to like plan out, because I'm just like my brain does not function that way.
Yeah, and
At all.
and
So like, why would I waste my time doing it?
And if you give me like a sink full of dishes, it's not to say that I can't do it, but it's so mind numbing, and I just hate it. And I need to be doing something more creative. My mind is just in a more creative space. It always has been. Or just something that's like a mental challenge. Like I like a mental challenge of some sort. So again, you could say like, oh, well, you guys are living by gender roles,
Yeah.
of course, and like traditional gender roles, and Jared's controlling, and Katelyn just does whatever he wants to do. Meanwhile, she's doing all the dishes and all the laundry, but it's like, it works for us. It's worked for us. And the most important thing is like, if you want to say that, like, you can't say that it hasn't worked for us.
Exactly. We are so efficient in like our day to day and our
Yep.
life because we know what needs to be done and who's going to do it.
Yeah.
There's no like, and also it's not like well, I took the garbage out today, you better take it out tomorrow.
Yep.
It's just like, we know it's just like a constant flow.
We're not keeping score.
Yeah.
We're not going tit for tat on these things because
That's super toxic.
it's toxic. It creates friction.
Yep.
It creates animosity. And it's just like, you know what you deal with. I know what I deal with. If I need to offload something to you, or you need to offload something to me, then we'll do that. But we generally know like how we run the household, and it's worked. Like that's the bottom line. It has worked, and it's it has worked from the beginning, and it continues to work, and it only continues to get better over time. So yeah, I think that like from the outset, that's what people would say. And I'll just say, like, I do believe very directly that the man should be the director of the relationship. I think that like there's a reason why there's traditional gender roles in a relationship. The man should be the director of the relationship. The man should be steering the ship and saying what we're doing and where we're going. That doesn't mean the woman doesn't get a say in it, of course, but that's what the man should do, is provide. They should protect, and they should be driving the purpose of the relationship. Where are we going? And the woman is in a supportive role. That's what masculine and feminine energy is. A woman should be in a supportive role, and you have been so supportive of me over the years that I always say, I couldn't be me without you. And I wonder, if we weren't together, like, where would I be today? Would I be able to be me? If I did, in fact, have to do my laundry in my 20s and cook my meals and take care of cleaning the house like every week. And again, it's not that with laundry, I never do it. With everything else, like I do that stuff from time to time.
And you do all the outdoor, like you keep up the out of the house. Like,
Sure.
I mean,
But like, if I had to do all the other tasks that you have managed throughout my adult life, would I be where I am today? I would like to believe that I am, because I think that like I would figure it out. I'd make it happen, and I would do it more effectively and more efficiently than most people. And I would still be like above average. But I know that I wouldn't be where I am today. And it's because we've had that trade-off in terms of like the who handles what responsibilities, and it's allowed me to focus on what I'm good at and what I want to do. And I think like hopefully you could say the same, where it's like by me managing like the big picture stuff, it's allowed you to do what is important to you and what you enjoy in your personal life, professionally and otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think I wouldn't be. I definitely wouldn't have put in probably like as much work as I have in on myself without like the obviously the help and assistance from you. And like I think you could also say the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a
Having
doubt.
each other
Yeah.
to like really push each other to be the best version of ourselves and working on ourselves.
Because
So that's
I would say because we wanted to be the best
Yeah.
person for ourselves, and we wanted to be the best person for each other. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like that's obviously another like huge factor. It's like I always, everything I've ever done, it's easy for me to say like, oh, it's because I want to be the best, but it's like, no, I want to give you the best life possible. I want
Yeah.
to make you happy. I want to take you on a fancy vacation that you don't have to worry about, and you just get to show up and like enjoy it.
yeah.
That's important to me. And I mean, I guess like you are, like you said, like you have to pack and then you unpack, but it's like, aside from that, like, and
Yeah.
again, you got like, it's weird. You get like your jollies off.
I'm
your
like,
bat.
we gotta get to the house. I gotta unpack the luggage. That's like one of the first things I want to do.
You
'cause-
love unpacking luggage
I
when we get
do.
when we get to an hotel or an Airbnb. You love it.
Yeah, and then like
And
when,
she puts it away in the drawers and in the closet, and everything has its own place as
Everything.
soon as we get there.
Yep.
So again, I'm incredibly fortunate.
Yeah.
Some people think that that's like psychopathic behavior, but
that on you or me.
you,
I mean, whatever. But, like,
Nah.
I know. I don't know.
I think it's really cute. I think it's adorable, and
I think
it obviously like it makes my life so much easier rather than rummaging through my suitcase.
And I think it's hilarious too and cute when you get out of the shower and you're like, which drawer are my socks in? And I'm like, it's bottom left.
Literally, like there's a sock drawer, there's an underwear drawer, there's a t-shirt drawer, whatever. When we're on
Yeah.
vacation, everything's hung up in the closet.
Uh-huh.
My shoes are like laid out
Yep.
nice.
But yeah, and then like, I can't stand in a messy hotel room or anything like that.
Yeah.
So everything's always cleaned up.
But again, I think in a lot of relationships, there is that like tit for tat. You're trying to like avoid the obvious decision to make in terms of how responsibilities should be divvied up. And if you're keeping score, if you're going tit for tat, if you're saying like, I took out the garbage today, so you're taking out the garbage tomorrow, or just the way the responsibilities are divided is not done in a way that like just makes coherent common sense, then what ends up happening is like it creates friction, it creates trouble, like I said, it creates animosity, and then rather than working on a common goal and toward a common vision and working collaboratively, you're maybe working collaboratively some of the time, and then also creating problems the rest of the time, or creating friction that doesn't allow you to continue to progress and move forward. And if there's friction within the relationship, then how is that relationship going to progress, and how are you as people going to progress? It's very, very difficult.
Yeah. So would you say that's like a piece of advice you'd like recommend to people, like when looking for a partner and like really deciding if you're going to be with that person long term, like making sure you have roles within the relationship? Then I think it's a crucial thing.
I would say, I mean, like, of course, I would, if it's two people that want to accomplish like great things, like absolutely, I think they definitely should. Like, if people are just okay with just being average and just like kind of getting by and surviving, then sure, like be with whoever you want, or like just let it happen.
Yeah. Or
like you guys can battle over taking out the garbage if you want to battle over that, or who does the laundry, or who cleans the dishes. But like if you're doing that, you're wasting it. That's like wasted energy that could be put elsewhere. So I would say, yeah, they should. And I guess like another piece of that is what that means is that if you're looking for a partner, that partner doesn't have to be the perfect person that you want them to be right now. As long as that person is willing to work on themselves, is willing to work on the relationship, and has a shared vision with you, or a shared goal in life, and and you're willing to put in the work, and the other person is willing to put in the work, then just find the person who like has that same vision as you. Yeah. And together, you'll become the best versions of each other, of one another. Or I guess you'll become the best versions of yourself together by working towards that goal. Because the reality is, like, the way I look at our relationship, I have, again, my passions, interests, skills, talents. You have your passions, interests, skills, talents. If we didn't have the same vision, well, then we're working in two different directions. That's number one. But if we were working in conflict with one another towards the same vision, then we're never going to get anywhere. Yeah. But we have the same vision that we form over a very long period of time together that has evolved over a very long period of time. You have never again created friction for me. Instead, I mean, of course, there's been times. There's definitely been times when we have caused friction, but in general, in the big grand scheme of things, like, we've not caused friction for each other. We've only supported one another, continued to progress, but continued to make sure that the other one has everything that they need to feel supported and feel like they can achieve success. And as a result, we've worked on ourselves, we've worked on our relationship, and we've worked on our life in collaboration.
Absolutely.
Over 20 years. And that's, I think, like, why we are where we are today. So my point is, like, if the person isn't perfect today, that's fine. Are they willing to work on themselves? Are you also willing to work on yourself? If so, then that's your person.
Yeah.
If you have the same vision, that should be your person, and you should link up and you should go, let's become a team and focus our energy in a shared direction, because you and I are far more powerful than, like, the sum of our parts. I could be by myself, you could be by yourself, and we're going to achieve less than half of what we're achieving together. We're achieving exponentially more as a unit as we would separately.
Yeah.
Yeah? Do you agree? Okay.
I 100% agree.
Okay.
I feel like the fact that, like, we put so much time and effort into, like, us growing individually and doing it together, like, as like an accountability of, like, I had you to support me, you had me to support you, and we're on the same page about, like, okay, we have some flaws, we need to work through them. We really just had difficult conversations and like worked through everything, and we're willing to do it. It wasn't like, you were dragging your feet or I was dragging my feet through it. Like, we really wanted to, like, be able to get to where we are now and just know that, like, we're going to achieve even more and doing it together, which is nice.
And it's been, like, you're obviously genuinely my best friend in the world. I'm sorry, Jay.
Oh, God, I know.
You are my best friend in the world. We, like, what's so great, like, I think about this every day when I'm doing my visualization thing, because one of my things that I say every day is that my Poozle and I love the time that we spend together. That's one of the things that I say every single day as part of my visualization practice. And that's one that comes really easy for me because we genuinely love all the time that we spend together. We have fantastic conversations, our walks, our time with the dogs, our time with our friends, our time having sex, our time doing everything is so incredible. And I just can't believe that I was 17 when I found you and I'm about to be 37.
Yeah.
And, like, I've been able to share this, like, life with you up to this point. I truly can't believe it.
Right.
It's and that's, again, one of the things that I say, where it's like, I know that I am destined for greatness, and I know that I'm a genius, and I know that I'm going to be able to accomplish all the things that I want to accomplish, because that's all kind of easy and, like, icing on the cake after what I have with you. So I know that I'm living in, like, the absolute best possible timeline because I have you.
Yeah, it's so sweet. Well, I think one of, like, an outside perspective or outsider is whenever, like, we're out and, like, people meet us or are talking to us and they're like, oh, how long have you guys been together, or where'd you guys meet? And I say, like, we're high school sweethearts, or, like, met in high school, and people are really, like, shocked by that. And I think because we are, like, very, very affectionate still towards each other, like, in public, and, like, my days and my time with you, like, I absolutely love it.
I'm gonna start saying, when people ask where we met, I'm gonna be like, at the strip club.
Yeah. Appropriate. Seems appropriate. That's more believable than high school sweethearts.
Especially looking at us.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Big titty blonde and like, and you.
Oh my God, that is more believable than a high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's like my love for you just grows like more and more like every moment and like every conversation we have and every day, and just like we are so connected. We're still obviously like our individual selves, like we have our own things we want to be doing, but we are so connected and on the same path that it's really nice. And to like go through like this life and this time on earth with somebody who like I know is like always with like by my side is really wonderful. And then like our souls in the afterlife will hopefully be together.
I think we've been together forever.
Yeah, and multiple lives.
I actually think that we've been traveling through space and time together since the dawn of time.
For sure.
And we just happen to be in this form right now for the next like 50 years or so.
Yeah,
but maybe
hopefully.
at least
At least
70 to 80 more years probably.
Yeah, Elon will figure it out. He'll make us live forever.
But I was gonna say something else. I can't quite remember.
Well, I guess like time and place. Like, what's your favorite memory
Of
for
us?
us? Yeah.
Oh man. Dude.
Or like a favorite trip, or anything that sticks
So
out?
one of the first things that comes to mind for me, and like this is like a recent memory, but being in Sedona last year.
That was my memory.
Really? That was a special one. That
I
was like a really,
know.
really special thing. We were in Sedona at the Red Rocks. It's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. And we took a bunch of mushrooms.
Yeah.
So when you're out there, like these Red Rocks they're absolutely like tremendous. They're massive. They're majestic. And it's almost, especially when you're out there on mushrooms, it's kind of an intense experience because you're out there, you're looking at these like massive rock formations, and I'm realizing like, man, these rocks are almost like in our face, reminding us like, hey, like you think that your problems are so big or that you're so special or that you're going to have some sort of like a legacy
Or that you're a genius.
or that you're a genius and that means something. But at the end of the day, like, I've been here before you. I've been here before mankind. I've been here before life on Earth. I will be here after you. I will be here after all life is extinguished from the planet. And like whatever you think you're gonna accomplish is like literally nothing. It's less than nothing in the grand scheme of things. And when you're again in Sedona and you're on mushrooms and you're having that experience, you realize there's really only one thing to do. So of course we fucked up there. And
We did.
out there in the wilderness.
Yeah, there was
But-
definitely some people on a hike that caught a glimpse, I'm sure.
But
But
but the whole time I was like, I have a lot of work to do. I have some work to do if I want to leave a real legacy. So that was something that was very, very special to me, was the Sedona trip. Another thing that just like, if I had to say, like something that really jumps out to me is moving down to Austin.
Yeah.
Like just the drive down to Austin and like all that seems like a really like obviously tremendous turning point in our life or
sure.
decision that we made that came out of nowhere. On paper made no sense whatsoever. Moving down with no job or nothing to speak of, like, and making it work. That is just another very, very special memory. And I think that's another point that I want to make as far as like what makes a relationship great. And when I talk about support from a woman, I think a man needs support from a woman. So when I say that a man should be the director of a relationship, what that means is like you're the director, but you're nothing if you don't have her support. And I don't want to make it seem like the woman is secondary to the man. That's not the case
No.
whatsoever.
the man wouldn't be
The man can't be anything
No.
without the woman. And the man should crave her support and her love. And the more that he gets from that, the more confidence he builds in himself and in his ability to steer that ship. Just like the more efficient the ship is being run, the easier it's going to be to get to your final destination. So, like, that's something that I think is really important to point out. That love and support is critical, and that doesn't just come in the form of, like, sex necessarily, although that's a good way of showing it. It doesn't just come in, like, kissing you goodbye when you leave for work in the morning. It comes from supporting your decisions that you're making, showing confidence in your man and his ability to do the right thing. And throughout my adult life, every step of the way, no matter how ridiculous of a decision I seemingly made, whether it was going to law school when I didn't want to be a lawyer really, whether it was moving down to Austin, or whether it's now leaving my successful career to do my own thing, you have never said no, or you've never said, let's think about it, or you've never said why. You're literally just like, yes, let's do it. Okay, let's go. And like that is creates as much confidence as possible, because it limits every ounce of friction to make those decisions. Because if you made any kind of friction, if you were like, really, like law school, or you're gonna quit your job, well, maybe we should like think about what that means or what that looks like. If you had done that, it puts even this much doubt in my mind.
Yes. And I think as like a female going into like a relationship, so like if you're saying that, like someone listening be like, so you're just saying like you should just like always be supportive of the man, like no matter what his crazy decisions are, like, you know, like,
okay.
So I would say in response to
That's
that,
a good point.
Yeah, is you
choose a good man.
Yeah, that's pretty much like find someone that like you truly like trust them, and that you know they are making like sound, rational decisions, and like really thinking everything through. Like I'll never forget when you were like, so when we were talking about opening the gym, and you're like, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna have to like quit my job, and like do all these things, and like this is a potential, like this is gonna fail, like, and you kept saying like, why are you trusting me with this? Why, like, this is a major thing, like I'm like about to turn everything upside down essentially. And I was like, I believe that you have thought every single thing through, the pros, the cons, and like you're going about it the best way, because I know who you are. And so again, advice would be like, yeah, find like a man who's going to like direct you and like steer in the right direction.
Sure.
Not go into the iceberg.
But the man, but at the same time, the man has to find somebody who is genuinely going to support them, and is not going to, you know, again, like questioning things is okay. Asking questions is fine. Like expressing true concerns is fine. But there's a difference between that and throwing a wrench in what that person might have. And again, if you found somebody who is genuinely deserving of you and deserving of doing great things, if you're deserving of doing great things and that person is deserving of doing great things, then like you should trust them. And the other thing I'll say as far as that goes is you can only know somebody as well as you know yourself.
Yeah.
So if you don't trust them, you can assume that they have reason to not trust you. And if you trust yourself, you're going to attract somebody who, and if you know yourself well enough, and you can be honest with yourself, then you're going to attract somebody who is honest with themselves, and then that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
So if you don't know yourself, you're not going to attract the person that you want and a person that you will be able to trust, because you can't even trust yourself.
Yeah, I think one of our friends, this was like when we had first like met them, and they were like, oh my gosh, like you've been together for like 18 years at that point. And they're like, what's the key to such, and they were like newly started dating. They're like, what's the key to like such a successful relationship? And I said, my answer is brutal honesty.
Yeah.
And my friend has that like as a note to herself, like in her phone, of like, that's what a success like is helpful. And it's not only just, of course, brutal honesty, like honesty with your partner, but like you said, like, you know who you are, like you hold up that mirror, you're honest with yourself. Because if you're honest with yourself, you're going to do like the things that are right for you, by you, and then also for like the person you're in the relationship with.
Yep.
And like, yeah, it just works. We just made it work for like a long time.
You literally can't be honest with somebody else unless you're honest with yourself. You can't be, because if you're lying to yourself, then everything that you say to somebody else is just compounding on that lie in its own way. And that's kind of like the number one thing is be honest with yourself, know yourself. Then you'll be able to be more honest with other people, attract more honest people, attract people that you can genuinely love and trust and who will be a good director of the ship or a good COO of the ship. And then that again, that's where amazing things can come from that point on. And again, what you're doing is you're taking two sources of energy, you're combining them towards the same vision, zero friction, and that's how goals are crushed. Not just accomplished, but like absolutely crushed. And I have, again, no problem saying, like, I feel like we're as shining of an example of that as anybody. So
Yeah, and I think it's just like so important to, when you're in that relationship and like you're supportive and not like, so like, you know, you went to law school and then you're like, well, I don't want to be a lawyer. I could have, and like I was like, okay, like, again, okay is my like response, but like I could have been like,
man, I do seem like I'm a kind of controlling egomaniac freak.
no, but like that is like, again, like I typically, again, I really just like supported you and like knew, like I was like, okay, like, yeah, if you being a lawyer means like you're gonna work 80-hour work weeks, have a miserable life, like we're not gonna be able to like enjoy our time together, like, yeah, that doesn't sound good at all. And so came up with the, you know, the idea to move down to Austin. But if I like held that kind of like against you, or kind of like used that as like a, well, we're doing this because like you didn't go to, like you didn't become a lawyer, or like kind of basically like kind of threw it in your face as like a failure,
Yep.
then like, again, just awful for the relationship.
For sure.
Like,
Yeah. Again, breeds resentment.
yeah.
I would be less confident.
Yep.
I would be more fear-based, and I would be making more fear-based decisions, like maybe being a lawyer, and then who knows
yeah.
how that would have
Oh my
affected
God.
our relationship. Because if it's not good for me, then there's no way it would be good for us. And there's like a thousand examples of how that could have gone had you reacted in any other way about the decisions that I've made.
Yeah.
So again, I thank you for all that.
And I
do.
thank you. I thank you, because life is pretty rad right now.
And it's pretty fucking rad.
What would you say you're most proud of in our relationship?
So I think with that, it's going back to what I was saying earlier about, just like anything, the obstacle is the way. And this goes to being honest with ourselves. It goes to being honest with each other. But more importantly, it's the idea that when there is some point of friction, it's not letting that fester, not allowing that to fester, not allowing it to bubble up under the surface, but instead, like, in that moment going, hey, we're attacking this right now. Like, we're getting to the bottom of this, because if we let it go any further, then we just diverge more and more off course, and then the problem becomes more difficult to actually solve. So,
And we didn't always do that.
we
No, we did not.
no, I'm saying we definitely haven't always done it. I would
Yeah.
say that in certain cases we've always done it, but we certainly let a lot of things go for a long time.
Yeah. And then it like would build up and
Yeah.
build up, and then we would have like arguments that got like heated and yelling and all that kind of like awful things, and like, but now it's just like, okay, like, let's call each other out on like certain behaviors or
Yeah.
certain things, and it's just, you like nip it extremely quickly. So I'm like, that's what I'm proud of, is like our, like the maturity of like our relationship.
Yeah.
Is
Just not letting something grow more than what it should be. As soon as I see you, it's the reality is, the way this normally works is, it's not normally not something that she's doing that's a problem, and it's normally something that I'm doing that she's reacting to, but she won't tell me in the moment that she's upset about it. So
thank you, Mom.
So she'll be passive aggressive about it, as opposed to just coming out and saying it. Because again, I do want feedback. I beg her. I beg you for feedback.
Yes.
On a regular basis. So again, when I'm saying I'm the director, that doesn't mean that I don't ask for feedback. I don't want to know what she's thinking. I want to know exactly what you're thinking at all times, if you're on board with this or not, because I trust your opinion and I want to take it into account as we're steering the ship.
Yeah.
So you can tend to be very passive aggressive. And if you don't like something that I'm doing, or something that I said, or something that I have an idea on, you could tend to, your energy is all over you. You can't hide it, even though you think you are. So I will have to be like, you're telling me everything is okay, but your energy is saying otherwise. And you'll be like, no, it's not. I'm fine. I'm only angry because you're asking me. And then this is like a regular thing where I have to go, again, I think your energy is speaking differently than like what you're actually saying. Mm-hmm. It's telling me that there's something wrong here, and we have to get to the bottom of it. And then eventually you break down, and I get to the core of it. But the alternative to that is you letting it sit, letting it get worse, letting it fester.
Or you not caring to want to try to figure it out. You just be like, all right, well, you're just being like a bitch, and like move on.
And move on. And now I walk away from the conversation thinking you're a bitch, and you walk away from the conversation thinking I'm a dickhead.
Exactly.
And now we're, again, further away from where we need to be, which is on the same page. And now it's creating more friction. And that is something that I do think that I'm very, very proud of, is like when I notice that, I call you out on it. And when you see that I'm doing something wrong, you have gotten better about saying like, I don't like that, or that's not it, or whatever. And then like we can hash it out right there, get it solved in 15 minutes through a conversation that doesn't involve yelling and doesn't involve argue. Like it's a debate more than an argument. It's a conversation. It's me explaining my side, you explaining your side, and almost every time, of course, the answer lies somewhere in the middle,
of course,
between the two. And like both of our opinions are equally valid, and they both add something to the conversation that allows us to get to the right answer. And the avoiding of the conflict prevents you from finding that solution. It only makes finding that solution more difficult over time. So that's 100% the thing that I'm most proud of.
Yeah, I would, to that, like I would say like our communication and like how much that has improved is what I'm most proud about.
I'll also say, after almost 20 years, I'm also very proud that we have like awesome, really passionate, really fun sex.
Yeah.
Still at this point, like multiple times a week, like, and it like gets like more and more. And I think, I'm not bragging, but if you're asking me what I'm most proud of, like that's another thing that I am incredibly proud of, is like our sex life.
Yeah, for sure. It's because that's just a whole nother way for us to connect.
Yep.
And so it's very important. But yeah, I think the communication is like the biggest improvement in us.
Definitely.
Like from a relationship.
For sure.
What time we got?
Got
Ooh,
8 minutes left.
Okay. So, our past, our present, what do you see for our future?
I kind of have already mentioned what I see for our future on this podcast. You mean for like in terms of our relationship?
Yeah. Like where?
I think
whether like where we are physically, where we are like emotionally and professionally.
The interesting part is at this point I don't know, and I've thought this before, so I know I'm wrong, but I don't know like how our relationship gets closer, or how we become even more aligned. Like it would we're already kind of like psychics with each other.
We are.
Where we read each other's minds, we think the same things as each other. We have ideas. For example, like you'll have an idea at work and I'll have an idea, and then like we'll meet at the end of the day when you're home, and like we'll be like, I have an idea, and you'll say like the exact same thing that I was going to say.
Or we put things like we both think something, and then all of a sudden like something happens, and like we both had the same thought.
Yeah.
Whether it's like we're gonna see somebody or some event, like something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We both have the same idea, and then it actually like comes into like fruition.
And then it happens, and I go, I was actually thinking that was gonna happen. You go, I thought that was gonna happen too.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So like we're kind of psychics with each other already. So I don't know what that looks like moving forward. I'm really looking forward to finding out.
Yeah.
Because it only gets more fun. So like if something's more fun than this, I don't know what that could possibly be. But so it's kind of hard for me to say what it's going to look like. I think it's going to become more and more as like, I think that our energy that we've now put into our relationship, I feel like our relationship, if we can obviously continue to be the best versions of ourselves, that will continue humming, which means that we're able to put that energy into other things like our business or like, our social life, or into other areas where like now like it's not just like us, it's like us plus like other people or other entities and other things that are like a part of our sphere of, and that's kind of like already happened, I guess, like largely. But it's kind of like we're expanding our orb of energy or love to include other things that we're building along the way beyond just the two of us. So I guess like our relationship will become like grow in scope beyond just the two of us in some way. And I don't know exactly how else to like say that.
Yeah, I guess like almost like have stuff like in orbit of our relationship of like
sort of, yeah, like whether again like our business or other people are like employees,
yeah,
right? Like, and that's because we're kind of operating our relationship in some ways more and more like a business as time goes on, with like our strategy meetings and like the fact that we were actually running a business, even like doing this podcast and stuff. Like we operate in a business way, so I feel like we will like that's the kind of stuff that will continue to grow with like within our orbit.
That's such an interesting thing you said, like running the relationship like a business. When we were talking in the beginning of like starting, the gym, building everything out and all of that, and just like, just having that like process, people, like multiple people, I don't know if like you remember it, like I've been told it, they're like, wow, like you're going into business like with your husband, like you guys are gonna like work together like on a business, and like kind of like big eye, and like raise their brows, and I'd be like, yeah, like he's like the best partner for it, so like why wouldn't I do that?
That always
like
weirds me. Like
right?
I'll say this, like
if you can't trust
it's like you're married to this person, and people are like business gets like in the way of stuff, but it's like, are you saying that the business is a bigger thing, like a bigger thing to manage than a relationship? Like that seems weird to me. It's like, no, the business like can come or go. Like the business is not more important than the relationship,
right?
So I guess if you're prioritizing the business over the relationship, then yeah, that's probably a problem in and of itself. Like the business is not the thing that's the problem in the relationship, it's you prioritizing the business over the relationship. But our relationship is an efficient operating entity.
Yeah.
And like I think that you can kind of get a sense through this podcast, anybody watching, that like we might run it like a business, but like we don't feel like it's a business.
No, not at all.
Like there's an immense amount of love here, and like there's no business is going to get in between us. I at least like maybe famous last words, who knows, like we'll see. But like
we'll see.
But like
I
just the reality is like that means by default that like the business was prioritized above the relationship, and like that is something that would go so hard against my principles that I couldn't ever foresee that being the case.
Yeah, and again, I think it's also the fact that people are like, oh well, like you like with business there's difficult decisions and this and that, and like if you don't have like a stable like relationship,
but in your relationship,
then like you I guess shouldn't go into business with it. I don't know, it was like I've had like multiple people say that, and I was just like, yeah, like Jared is like the best partner, so like in my like at home in our relationship, like everything, so yeah, like let's go into a business together.
Like again, it's like, is there no, are you not making difficult decisions in your relationship? That's kind of like the point.
Exactly.
Is like there's the relationship should be far more difficult than running a business. So it's a really strange thing to say, like you shouldn't go into business with your partner. It sounds like you have the wrong partner.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That's what I think.
So
I got the right partner.
I think so too. I have the best partner, and I've said that over and over and over and over again.
I have a genius for a partner.
I do too. I do too. And but again, everybody has that genius. Yeah. Everybody has that genius in them. Everybody has a genius for a partner. You need to find somebody who knows that they're a genius.
Yeah.
And knows that you're a genius. and then you can unlock your genius together.
Yeah.
That is, if anything, probably my takeaway from this episode at exactly
Oh, there you go.
an hour.
Perfect. All right.
Well,
That's a wrap.
I guess that's a wrap for this one. It was like a lot of really interesting topics
Yeah.
and a lot of really cool things to dive into that I guess like I haven't spent an immense amount of time thinking about. So I don't know if it came across as like coherent as it probably could have, like some of my other things that I've talked about. But I think that there was a lot to like glean from that.
Yeah.
And we'll have to have a lot more conversations here about our relationship and
Definitely.
other things as well.
Absolutely.
Cool. See you, Boo.
Bye.
Bye.